So, if you were traveling with the doctor and the doctor tried to drop you off in your own time, but missed by a few years, what would be the worst year to end up in? Well, that's the premise for a video that I was commissioned to make. I'm reviewing some fan works. This is a couple of episodes of the Doctor Who fan works that are on Solitary Pictures. So I'm talking about two episodes, 2020 Vision and the New Pandemic. And if you didn't fully connect the dots from my intro, this opens with the Doctor trying to return his companion to his own time and accidentally landing in 2020 and getting stuck just at the start of the lockdown. So, a little bit before I get into this, I've done fan works before. It's always been by commission, at least so far as I remember, it's always been by commission. And I'm always a little bit nervous doing it because, this is stuff done by passionate people who just love this and just want to share it with the world. And it's frankly not fair to hold that to the same standard as professionals being paid money to do the work. Like, it's just not. Yet at the same time, I feel like sometimes it can just be condescending to like grade them on their own little curve. Now, in a lot of cases, a lot of the fan works that I have tackled were at a production level that I'm like, yeah, that's pretty close to professional. That's not going to be the case here. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as a heads up for if you're going to try to watch this. What the appeal is different than some of the other fan works that I have taken in before and that, or even been a part of. Because I've been involved in fan works and some of which I think came out pretty dang good. Not saying it was because I was there, though. Doesn't hurt, I'm sure. What am I? I'm not wearing a tie. What am I doing? But regardless, I think there are two different kinds of fan works, or at least two different headspaces to enjoy a piece of fan work, fan film, fan fiction, fan audio, whatever it might be. And I think what the work is kind of depends on what the best one is. One is kind of what I've already talked about, looking at it, maybe not at the exact same level as a fully professional production, but realizing like it is emulating that. It is aiming for that. So like, okay, that's the ballpark you're playing in. We'll kind of judge along those lines. There are others where they're not really trying to do that. If you're going to enjoy it, it's going to be by getting wrapped up in the enthusiasm of it. And I don't want that to sound condescending. Like, me and my friends made stupid home movies when we were in high school. And like, it was just stuff that we threw together like Mike Easter Private Eye. And if you don't get the joke right off the bat, say it more quickly. Mike Keister. Yeah, that was the kind of nonsense that we were doing. And when I kind of, it took me a little bit into the first of these two episodes, when I kind of put myself back in that headspace of just remembering how fun it was to film something and be able to watch it, that's the kind of enthusiasm that I kind of feel coming off this. So in terms of production value, like, I think the one thing that I am going to be kind of legitimately critical of, the handheld camera work. It is very shaky, and not in a stylistic way like handheld work in something like the latter Jason Bourne movies or even Battlestar Galactica is. They don't have a stabilizer and somebody doesn't know how to hold still with the camera or phone. I mean, I don't know what it was filmed on. And that's a little rough. Second episode's better on that front, but it did make that first episode kind of difficult. And that one I feel like it's fair to give a heads up on, because there are some things that are just restriction of resources or time or whatever else. But like, having the camera, I understand there's a lack of experience from whoever was filming it, but that's about like the one thing I'm going to be outright critical of. Other than that, and when I say that, I don't mean the rest is great and amazing. The rest is fun and enjoyable, and again, the enthusiasm of it. So I kind of gave you the initial pitch. Now, these are original takes on the Doctor, and it's a companion. So this isn't like trying to pretend to be any specific Doctor. And it's pretty common in fan films to create their own unique incarnation of the Doctor. You have the folks over at DW 2012 who have the purple Doctor and stuff like that and so forth. So here we have a Doctor in a yellow coat. At least so far, what it looked like on the IMDb listings for this, I think they're calling this the Hopeful Doctor, which is an interesting designation, at least given the impression I had of him in this particular thing. There's also a companion young man named Henry. The actor playing the Doctor, also pretty young. And you can tell nobody here is a professional actor. People are trying, and there's a few of them I wouldn't be surprised. I'm like, you've done community theater or something like that, haven't you? Like, some people kind of got into it a little bit more, but it has that jankiness of, they probably only had 2 takes, and this is the one where the person got all their lines out. So that's the delivery you've got. But again, a lot of it is that enthusiasm, and there's a handful of things that I'm like, dang, actually, okay. The TARDIS console comes to mind. That's something that they made for this. It's pretty impressive. I couldn't build that. Like, a lot of what this is doing, like, not that I make fan films, but there is a part of my brain, and it's not just this. Like, I feel this way oftentimes when I watch community theater, if it's, being done in a way that I'm like, I think I could have put together something better than that, because I've actually done community theater. So just part of my brain does that. I can't help it. But I definitely didn't have that feeling when I saw the console. I'm like, dang, okay. Yeah, no, that is a nicely put together piece of work. And like, it wasn't a full recreation of an existing console. It was like their own design, and there was some unique elements in it. Kind of crystal heavy, but not like in the way that Whitaker's was. Like, overall structure was kind of classic, that kind of octagonal looking thing, but a lot of the knobs and switches like had crystal handles. It was neat. I really liked it. The sonic screwdriver also looked like a custom job. That was a little less remarkable, but it was kind of cool to see that it wasn't just, a toy, recreation of an existing one, the kind of thing that I have. So, although I say that, and I do have, my one custom one, which I love, but regardless, I'm just showing off there. So the plot, it actually, like, story-wise, it's pretty solid. It has some interesting ideas. And so we have this thing of, like, the Doctor accidentally getting them stuck in 2020, which the companion character of Henry has lived through already. He's like, oh my gosh, really? Now, the additional complication that we get is a meteor that isn't actually a meteor. It is a Cyberman head lands, and people start getting converted. And there's some interesting ideas in this, kind of starting with the fact that the first person converted basically converts willingly, because the head more or less says, hey, you know how bad everything is right now with the lockdowns now happening? You know how much everything sucks? You know how much it hurts? How'd you like to not feel that pain anymore? How'd you like to not feel lonely anymore? How'd you like to not feel stressed and scared anymore? How'd you like to not feel anything? And I think for certain mindsets, especially as that stuff went on for a bit, yeah, that's actually an interesting perspective on it. It's actually something that, not necessarily the specific around the lockdown, but I think it's an idea that, I mean, the closest Doctor Who proper has done with it was Ashad during the Chibnall era, who does say that he voluntarily converted, but the show never really explores that. Like, that fact alone has a lot of implications, but I think there's a lot of potential there for like a conversion into a Cyberman that's more like a temptation and less like a forcible takeover. So that was an interesting idea. And there's another thing that I actually thought was really neat in the second of these 2 episodes, which is that there is actually a rather substantial disabled cast. There, during the second episode, there's a scene where like a bunch of survivors show up because obviously you have one Cyberman. Just wait, there'll be a ton more. So we've got a lot of Cybermen now, and they're kind of taking over. And there's this sort of group of survivors, and they're armed, and they're all disabled people. Most of them in mobility aids, and it's not really remarked upon. It just kind of is. And it was just neat to see. Part of me did kind of want it to be remarked on. Not necessarily to make a big deal out of it, but like I had a thought, and then the episode didn't do that. And I'm not even necessarily saying it should do what I'm about to say my thought was, but I don't know. I feel like there could have been something there. But like what had happened earlier is the Doctor and the 3 people that he's with at that point, they are told by the Cybermen there are only 3 humans left in this sector because sort of the immediate area has been sectioned off into 3 sectors. The Doctor doesn't count as human, so it's just the 3 behind him. And then my first thought when all these disabled people showed up was that the Cybermen didn't count them. Because the Cybermen design that they're using is like the classic era, where it's the head, but then it's just like a suit. So it's not like the sort of we put your brain in a steel cage thing that that some of the newer stuff has been. And it made me wonder, like, did the Cybermen literally not count these people because they didn't feel they were fit for conversion? Like I feel like that could have been a thing, like a commentary on ableism, and given some of the authoritarian and at times fascist leanings of Cybermen. I know the Daleks are the more classic fascist parallel, but like the Cybermen are a little bit too in different ways, different aspects of it. I did wonder if that's what it was doing. It does not appear to be the case, but regardless, it's just really cool to see a whole bunch of disabled people who seemed really enthusiastic to be there. Again, the enthusiasm is really infectious, especially if you can get onto its wavelength. The story is solid and pretty easy to follow. There's something that happened to the companion that I didn't really follow, and I suspect is because the 2 videos that I was commissioned to take a look at aren't actually the first and second. They are the 3rd and 4th in the series, which means that I have a feeling that whatever happened to Henry either made sense because of stuff that happened before that I didn't know about, or would get explained in a later episode that I wasn't commissioned to see. So there is something that goes on with him that I'm like, I'm missing context, and I just kind of accepted that. But this has that homegrown, do-it-yourself feel. Like this is proper backyard filmmaking. And I think especially if you ever did that, if you ever messed around with a camera with your friends and threw together like cheap-looking costumes out of whatever you had sitting around to just make whatever. And obviously this had a certain amount of organization and planning to it and like a proper script, that this is actually a step beyond that. But if you ever did that and you have fond memories of it, I think you could probably get on the wavelength to enjoy this. It was an interesting viewing experience. Again, I don't engage with fan works very, very much. Not like because I'm too good for them, just because I have too much other stuff to do. That makes it sound like it's not worth my time. That's not what I mean. But like, I'm always busy, and other stuff takes priority. So like fan works are just never a thing I've really gotten into in any form. I don't read fan fiction either. So fan art, maybe a little bit here and there. My brain's tangenting. Sorry. But this was an interesting thing, and it kind of just reconnected me to that younger time when there was just the thrill of, hey, we made a thing. And I feel that energy coming off of this. So if you have an appreciation of that and fans of Doctor Who with, again, some nifty ideas as far as the scripting level goes, yeah, it's a fun watch. I'll put links to the videos. A pinned comment. I'll try and remember to do it as a pinned comment and not just put it in the description. Has anybody seen this? Or do you have a favorite Doctor Who fan work here on YouTube that you want to pitch for people to check out? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Those will help. Don't worry too much about it, though. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so you just come on back next time you need a break. Now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Subin Lutfulla, Andicate808, Mara G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, The Baba Duchess, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pau Baraba Joggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. I also want to give my thanks to all the supporters who didn't get named, because you are all indeed very nifty people. You could be a nifty person too if you go support me on Patreon, and there's the clause. Ugh.